Everybody to our presentation today about intelligent content management systems. And the thing is, I want to ask you is that, are you ready for the future of digital transformation with a solid content management system? I'm here with Thanos Kapaneridis. And hi, Thanos. And Thanos is the president and CEO of Aerosoft. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick administrative thing that we've been asked to do. Is that we wanted to remind you that if you have any problems with this platform or the audio or the video, you should try to just refresh your screen or try a different browser. And we also wanted to remind you that during this presentation that we're actually live in the chat box, and we can answer any questions that you have over the course of the presentation. And then additionally, at the end of the presentation, there'll be a brief period where there's going to be live Q&A. So if you want to wait until the end, you can also ask questions. So now that the administrative details are out of the way, let's jump right in. Thanos, I'm really glad to be here today to talk about one of your favorite subjects today, which is content management.
Hi. Well, I'll be happy to offer you everything I've learned in the last 25 years or so.
Wow, we're going to have to go really fast to be able to do that. Yeah, that's great. Hey, listen, what we're going to focus on today is we're going to focus on content management and then a couple of business cases which help you to understand how people have been successful using content management and the critical nature of using content management. But where I want to start is that we want to start by defining content management. And the way that we want to do that is that Thanos has a rich history over the years in digital data and content management. And I wanted to start by handing it back over to you, Thanos. And I wanted to just ask you is that, where did you start in this journey of content management? Where was this struggle that started for you, to move into this journey you were
on? Aerosoft is 23 years old, and it basically came out of an experience that was 5 years prior to that started in 1992. When I entered as a pure IT person into the domain of aviation, just to solve what I thought was a 2-week technical problem and commercial relationship with a vendor. And I haven't left since January 92, the domain of technical content in aviation.
That's stuck.
Yeah. And basically the problem I was solving in January 1992 was how to build a system that would allow structured authoring for an OEM, for a manufacturer of aircraft, because they had already realized the benefits of structured authoring and then the reuse of structured authoring downstream. Along with that came the fundamental challenges. At the time, we did not have XML, or at least it certainly had not been broadly or widely adopted. We did have SGML, but basically content was based on AMTOS code. So we were building a system with a relational database, Oracle, and with a highly technical engineering authoring system called Interleaf. But we were forcing the authors to author according to a fixed structure. There were challenges, they couldn't appreciate it, but we did as builders of the system and as the OEM, because that structured content was like a database that it could be reused. It could be reused in other documents. It could be reused and to be reformatted, to be presented on paper, on PDF, on screens, or on DVDs, on derivative documents, and so on and so forth.
So Thanos, you had this vision where there was going to be a more intelligent document where you could do reuse and you could, you could actually have richer content, but you were having difficulty getting people to move in that direction, right?
In essence, the authors were the challenge in migrating from what I call cut and paste mentality. One of the most beautiful features that word processors gave us were the cut and paste. It's also by far the most dangerous, because in technical content, when you write something important in one place, and then you cut and paste it and put it into different places, and then you realize that the original source somehow needs change, it's either wrong or it needs to be expressed better, then you need to go and decide where did you paste it in all the different places and deal with it.
So Thanos, it's kind of like somebody trying to put a number into a text field or a text into a number field in the database, right? They don't.
Well, essentially, yeah. We learned in systems what the value of records and schema and databases and relational databases are. And it took a jump to realize that the same concepts should really be implemented in technical documents. So you can reuse caution and warnings. 300 caution and warnings appear 10,000 times in an AMM. Illustrations are reused, thousands and thousands of them. Derivative documents like the maintenance task card manual is really a derivative of an AMM played against an MPD. And it just goes on and on and on. It's to the benefit of having what are known as minimum revisable units in a structured form, which then can be updated in a single source and then automatically reformatted for regardless of how you're going to reuse them.
So Thanos, you saw that there was this future, this vision of the future where you could do this reuse and have, the ability to be able to update one time and reuse many times and filter effectivity. And you had this vision in your mind. So really, what was keeping you from getting there? What was the challenge? Why were you not able to get there right away?
Well, first I had to convince that when we demonstrated in 1996 delivery of SGML based authoring using SoftQuad's author editor and the Astoria repository, the other challenges were to actually assemble the skills around the table and to raise capital to build Aerosoft to where it is today. And build the applications and then market and sell them into the customer base that was accustomed to paper and PDF.
So Thanos, it was a challenge really getting people to understand the value and to be able to put all the factors in place that would create success. Was there a point in time where all of that came together and you realized that this was really possible? When was that? What was this like epiphany moment where you realized that this was even possible to do this?
Well, we presented some of the prototypes to some of the early customers of the Bombardier aircraft, and they liked it. And then we basically also realized that the content management systems have a significant role in maintenance, but then the maintenance management systems are really the gatekeepers. So if you don't have an environment where the content management system is tied together and bundled and integrated with the M&E system, you don't really have a solution of digital data-based maintenance management.
Yeah. Okay. So it became a point in time where all the factors came together, and you were really able to start to do this because standards were in place, and data started to become available, and content management systems evolved, and software was there to be able to retrieve and view. And you built this, in very intelligent capability where now and regulators began to start to accept this, and all of a sudden now it was possible for us to do this. And then tell me what happened then. You were able to launch off and actually create success in some companies in doing this, right?
Yes. I had the fortune in participating in the formation of the iSpec 2200. And subsequently, through Aerosoft, I came across major customers. And I want to start by describing one case where a customer has an existing substantial MRO M&E system, and the senior management realized that structured content is the way to go. And they decided in a mixed fleet, 3 fleets, and 18 SGML manuals available by the OEMs and another 20 PDF manuals, that they would move to a digital XML-based content management environment, and they would give up proprietary applications of handcrafting job cards with tools like FrameMaker into PDF and so on, and they would move ultimately to digital content and digital-based signatures and approvals and so on.
So that's really what people are going for, right? Is that they want to have those things. They want to have maintenance manuals connected to task cards, and we want to have digital signatures, and we want to be able to sign off at task and subtask levels, and step levels. And we want to be able to update our MRO systems as a result of that. And Thanos, what I'm hearing you say is that it's only possible to do those things effectively when we have intelligent content in our system. Is that correct?
Yes. And unfortunately, dating even back to the early days at Bombardier, digital content somehow became synonymous with PDF. So the initial cases of ROI were, well, we're getting away from paper. and we're going to a DVD, and that DVD has PDF, and we solve the problem. That in fact created a bigger problem today as we go through real airlines, because they have so many large investments made in this proprietary application-based authoring and creating supplements and amendments and RIIs in PDF and so on, and in dealing with OEM supplied systems for viewing content, which in many cases are based on PDF, that they don't know how to put everything together and how to migrate to the ultimate nirvana of XML-based intelligent content management.
So Thanos, we're going to come back to that particular part about PDF. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because you know, in the early days of content management, people didn't understand why we had to go to structured data. Okay, we thought we want to have full flexibility. We can author in Microsoft Word, or we can author in a Word, you know, document-based authoring system without form, you know, in it. And they thought that gives me the most flexibility. I can add colors and notes, and I can do things that I want. But the whole intent of having structured data was to be able to make it more intelligent and do more things in the future, like deliver intelligent task cards and deliver manuals that are hyperlinked to task cards, and to be able to capture, you know, labor and hours and things. And so there was a specific reason why we were doing that. And today, you know, people still work with old documents that exist, you know, from a long time ago. And so we have this challenging environment that exists because airplanes can live for 20, 30, 40 years. That means the data is 20, 30, 40 years old. So Thanos, I wanted to switch this discussion for a minute and focus maybe a little bit on, if somebody is sitting with an operation today which has a mixed fleet, it spans multiple years, and they have a lot of different data types that exist in their environment, they're presented with quite a challenge. And so we wanted to kind of walk through a little bit with some of the experience that you've had in addressing and dealing with, you know, those kind of situations. Can you tell us about a recent case that you might have had where you worked with an operator to take a look at their operation that looked a little bit like what I just described?
Yes, we have, and essentially, you know, the instinctive, or in many cases, the quick response is, let's convert everything. Unfortunately, that creates a very, very large, expensive process in taking legacy content and forcing all of it to be converted at one point, beyond which you're going to have complete XML. So what you need to do is truly analyze the content and see which is content that will not change going forward. And therefore, is there a mechanism whereby you can maintain that in its existing form, which typically would be like a PDF form? And then look at the content that will change, and whether that content today is only available on PDF or in XML, deal with that in ensuring that that is in the optimum structured form, and then create what I call a dovetailing between the two. Allow the XML-based content to coexist with the PDF-based content, convert only where necessary and if necessary to XML, and also put in place what I call an attrition plan. As it makes sense, take small pieces of content that's in PDF and reauthor them in COCs in XML. From that point onwards, they are also part of this structured content going forward. And this structured content is not just what you see on the screen, it's the metadata that has behind it that makes it so searchable and reusable and transformable to other platforms, as in mobility and linking with databases.
So Thanos, let's break this down a little bit for the people that are listening here today. So you walk into an operation and they have maybe 3 or 4 different major fleet types, different over evolution of time, and the data that is associated with those, maybe the early aircraft were not authored in structured data, so that's only available in PDF, and then you have maybe a mid-range kind of an airplane that's only 10 or 15 years old. And then they have, a mixture of manuals that are available in XML and some only in PDF. And then you have a more modern day aircraft where maybe the larger portion of it is available in structured data. And that's a really common situation for people that have out there today. And so you're telling me that when you have that kind of a situation, is that, what do you do? Do you just go in and convert everything to XML? Do you use some of the old stuff? What's the strategy on how you handle that?
No, and I think, as I said, it requires an analysis. Recommendation of 100% conversion, it's just not feasible. It's not viable. It's very expensive and time consuming and so on and so forth. There are reliable, verifiable conversion processes, provided you use them selectively on the content that you believe will continue to live or be supplied in PDF, but you really need it in XML because you want to dovetail it with other aspects of the XML content or applications. And then there is what I call semi-dead PDF content. It's there and it'll live that way forever, as is where is. And you can keep that and dovetail it into and around the XML content and present it in its entirety when it comes time to execute maintenance. We have in production applications where you have SGML content converted to XML, which shows you the maintenance manual and the IPC. And then you have OEMs, the airlines authored supplements and amendments and RIIs dovetailed around the tasks or around the IPC figures, so that when the publication is delivered to a mobile device or to a browser, the mechanic sees the XML content rendered, and then it sees the PDF content so they can see what supersedes or what they really need to perform to remain compliant.
It's more in a hybrid, kind of an approach then. Is that what do you coin that? Do you coin that as a hybrid kind of an approach? Or
well, yeah, that's what we're calling it. It's a hybrid solution that accommodates PDF content coexisting within XML, completely PDF content, and a transition attrition process of migrating content that's authored in items like MS Word or FrameMaker to slowly migrate that into XML-based COC authored content.
Okay, so it requires some analysis and looking at the return on investment and really
Absolutely.
just the best way to go. Hey, let me ask the next question is that one of the big challenges that I've faced frequently is really getting buy-in from the leadership team on a project to execute on something like this, because it requires a lot of judgment on these kind of things. Is it what can be done to get better buy-in from the management team, Thanos?
I've experienced both sort of challenges. I've experienced senior management that is reluctant, and the people with their feet on the ground being very gung-ho, and also the opposite. Leaders at the execution level and operational level that appreciate what we're talking about and having to do a very heavy upstream ROI justification. We have actually taken one, our largest customer. It took them a period of about 3 years to convince the senior management to make the commitment. The best part is once the commitment is done and signatures are put in place, senior management says it's not in production yet. So, and then you have to deal with the weird and wonderful challenges that OEM content, even though it says iSpec 2200, it really isn't 100,00% as such. And the variations in the data and how you accommodate with them and how you go to the OEM and ask them to fix it, or you create changes in the application and so on and so forth.
That's a really complicated subject. Let's come back to that one during our third business case. Hey, I wanted to move into one part of a discussion here is that there seems to be a wave within the industry where people want to keep their PDF, or they want to use PDF and they want to apply electronic signatures on the surface of a PDF. And there's actually some really good solutions that people have produced out there to actually do that today. But Thanos, in your opinion, what's the difference between having a PDF-based kind of a solution where you're applying maybe a signature block on it and having the true flexibility of having intelligent content? Because I think that really boils down to one of the real reasons why you need to have intelligent content management. What's the difference between having PDFs with a signature applied to it and having an XML-based content which has the true ability to have greater feature flexibility? Help me understand that.
Yeah, we've all used DocuSign probably in signing a contract for buying a car or a home or something like that. that is not the same thing as content, which when it is in XML, it is able to be reused and regenerated. You can't take that PDF and reuse it and transform it. And there is also the issue of efficiency in volume and in communications and in storage when it comes to PDF-based content. When we have seen situations with customers where they've gone and they made a hardware decision, they purchased a really small iPad, then they implemented a PDF solution, and they realized the tens and tens of hours it takes to transfer content onto those devices. And they've had disasters, and therefore they've gone out to the market seeking solutions that actually are indeed based on XML solutions, because XML and SVG graphics are much more concise and much more readily usable in mobile applications.
So Thanos, we find ourselves in a position though where sometimes the data, doesn't support going to full, XML, or doesn't support it. And so I guess that goes back to your comments about having a hybrid kind of an environment. There has to be, a judgment that gets taken and saying, what's the return on investment that goes toward using PDF and maybe applying, signatures to it versus going to a full content management. But, I heard you just say that some people have had problems with that. They've tried to extend this PDF kind of an approach, to their entire fleet. And sometimes the volumes of the data are just so large that it becomes almost impossible to do the distribution that they need across the infrastructure, number one. And number two, they can't get the granular approach to work execution. So what I mean by that is that if you have a PDF, which is at a page level, and you're distributing that to people for accomplishing work, that may not be the level of detail that you want to distribute the work at. And so you're forced with giving people work packages to execute on that maybe aren't the most optimum because you haven't been able to break it up into the proper pieces using structured content.
This may not be the right context, but for example, what XML content allows you is to deal effectively with what I call revision models and effectivity models. These are complex concepts in aviation maintenance manuals. So you are able to send down only the minimum amount of data that actually has been revised when you have a source content in XML, and you are able to show and hide content according to effectivity, whether it applies to a particular tail or whether it applies to a particular implementation of a service bulletin. Those concepts against pre-printed page PDF content are not possible. As you said, you are forced to recreate the whole page and send it down. In fact, when we're talking about our existing customer and the attrition-based COC authoring of supplements, that's exactly the situation. Historically, all they could do is look at a page block. They would rewrite all of it in frame and include the 2 sentences that they wanted for their fleet, and then make the whole thing PDF and include it as a supplement. In going to a COC, all they're going to do is put those 2 sentences into the OEM content as COC bracketed, and voila. And that lives for every revision down the stream when you compare it to the incoming new revisions of the OEM content.
So Thanos, we described the struggles that you had in the beginning, and you came up with this idea of intelligent content management. That's what your business does today. We talked about the challenges that somebody may have with mixed fleets and mixed data types. So let's really jump to one of your recent successes that you're involved in right now, which happens to be a customer where you've done an implementation of this sophisticated content management kind of capability. And so let's move to that and have a bit of a discussion about that, because I think that really ends up being, really the crux of the reason why we're even talking, here today. So can you talk to us a little bit about this operator and the investments that they had, and what you did to be able to come in to be able to help leverage the current investments and add new technology and capability to an existing operation? Can we start and sort of unpeel that conversation? Tell us a little bit about what you go in there to do.
The airline is a very large, very well recognized operator, regional operator in North America. They've got 3 fleet types. The OEM provides a PDF-based viewer, essentially, with capability. So they've built an entire business model around that. They've built proprietary in-house job card printing system that's totally disconnected from the MRO M&E application. And ultimately, they said, aha, they had their epiphany that, in fact, they had to move to the HTML-based content and XML authoring and so on to achieve efficiencies within their current fleets, and also look downstream. If they are to renew and revise their aircraft going forward, they're very highly likely to receive aircraft that will be produced with XML and HTML content. So they presented us with the reality of having, as I said, about 18 manuals available in HTML and 20 manuals available in PDF. About 3,000 job cards pre-authored in FrameMaker and in PDF, with very specific in-house grammar that was approved by their regulator, and another 3,500 supplements and amendments and RIIs that need to be dovetailed into the content. And we've created a solution that achieves exactly what I just said. Receives the HTML content, converts it to XML, dovetails the existing PDF content, then allows COC authoring on an attrition basis, compares 3 revisions, the revision that's in-house with the previous revision and with the incoming revision of the OEM, automatically highlights changes to help the authors and the engineers drill down quickly to what they need to fix or change or to accept as is where is, and publish the content into the electronic technical publication.
Technical
And we're
viewer.
talking about doing about 50 gigabytes in a 12-hour period.
Hey, let me ask you a question here, Thanos. So, sounds super simple. All you do is go to the manufacturer and get a bunch of SGML and punch a button, and it all comes out perfect.
Well, I wish it were true.
That's not how it works.
No, and well, the standards bodies would like to expect that that's exactly how it is, but in fact, it is not.
But that's what everybody tells us. You just get the SGML from the manufacturer and throw it in the system, right?
Well, except they don't generate the HTML exactly as the latest or the most accepted version of the ISPEC 2200 standard. Then they have constructs within it themselves that they use, which makes parsers hiccup, which downstream makes the formatting not work, and so on and so forth. No, it isn't easy. There is substantial differences between Boeing HTML, Airbus HTML, Embraer HTML, and Bombardier HTML. And if your system and your supplier cannot identify and solve these, you will have big challenges.
I wanted to just unpack that for a minute. I didn't want to be flippant and say that the manufacturers weren't giving us good data, because the reality is it's quite a challenging problem, because I've worked with all 3 different manufacturers, and I've seen data from all of them. And, I used to work in technical publications at an airline. I used to work at the manufacturer. And let me just say this, is that aircraft are manufactured over long periods of time. Systems are developed even before the aircraft are manufactured. Standards have changed. People's requirements change. And the bottom line is that the people that are authoring and producing that data have a very complex time with these complex pieces of machinery producing consistent data. And the reality is, Thanos, is that you've told me that when you receive data that you think you're getting something, but it isn't always what you think you're getting, right?
Well, and one of the things about structured content is it has to be 100% compliant to the structure to work. When it catches deviations, then you have to deal with the deviations accordingly. Fix the data model, fix the something or other to be able to make it work repetitively and automatically. The famous S1000D, there are 4 aircraft types in commercial aviation out there, and each one of them is according to a substantially different revision of this 1000D standard. And you cannot house that data in a single one model repository S1000D.
And Thanos, I know this is a really, really complicated problem, and this in itself is hours worth of discussion, but I want you to just quickly, if you can, to capture is that what did you have to do to solve that problem at this particular customer that you were working with? Listen, they wanted to go to intelligent data. They had legacy systems, and the data they were getting from the manufacturer, had complexities in it. How did you handle that? How did you deal with that situation?
The simple sentence is we had to do a terrific amount of customization. We had to do customization to accommodate what they were what they were used to with the proprietary OEM's viewer and the process that they were using in adding TRs and amendments and so on. We had to accommodate a very complex OEM delivery system where they deliver PDF TRs quickly and then they replace them with SGML TRs. They issue a major revision every 90 days, but minor revisions in between every 30 days. And across the range of basically manuals that I just told you about. And all this had to be customized functionality, very high performance systems to allow the repeated republishing of the content.
So Thanos, in the end, then what are they going to have? What's going to be the success that they're having, at the end? What's the final output?
They're going to have content on a browser or on a mobile platform. They will be able to have their entire manual set for maintenance manuals on the mobile device. They'll be able to have job cards that can be executed and signed off on their mobile device, and that compliance is linked back with the MRO system. The ability to assemble work packages from job cards that live in the content management system, and they get delivered to the point of execution, and then they get delivered back and stored for compliance at the MRO system so the reporting can be done to the authorities and to management. That's the total vision.
And the bottom line is it's going to take them one step further in their vision of having full electronic data. That's really good. Hey,
there is just before we close up, there is another reality, and we've seen this in many customers. In the interim steps, even though content may be in XML, what's remarkable is that we are asked to generate it in PDF, assemble it with other content, send it to an actual printer, then dirty fingers execute the job card, physically sign it. Then it goes to a scanning system. It gets scanned, it gets indexed, and then it gets deposited on the cloud for searching. This is an incredible inefficiency end to end in costs of systems, business processes, communications, and storage, which hopefully will be rationalized when everyone goes more and more into pure structured digital content.
The reality is, Thanos, is that every operator out there, every consumer of data out there has different systems and has unique environments. All right. And what you just described was, one particular operator's journey with 3 or 4 different mixed fleets spanned over many years with different data type. And everybody's environment is different. Thanos, you and I have talked about this before this discussion and presentation today. And what Thanos and I, want to offer to you that are watching today is we want to offer to you that we will engage with you. If you want to just let us know that you're interested, we will look at your current systems with you, and not under doing a big salesy pitch to you, but we want to help you to understand what it is that you want to accomplish and where you want to go. Because what you really need to do is you really need to understand what your current systems are, what you can build on top of that, what your outcomes and objectives, need to be. And we're willing to spend some time with you to be able to help you kind of map that out. All right. Because we believe that's the first step in engaging with somebody, is really understanding what your current systems are and where you want to go and how you map that out. And then from there, you can decide whether an intelligent content management system makes sense for you or whether you should be doing, something different than that. So listen, we would like for you to reach out to us. There should be a way to contact us, either an email address or a link that you can click on. And around this presentation, it'll say how to do that, and or we may put it up on the screen here. I wanted to extend an offer to you is that digital transformation in your business and your organization, you need to rely on people that have done this before. You need to rely on people that have the knowledge, like what Thanos has talked to us about, who's done this many, many times over his entire career and has the ability to look at what you're doing and very quickly assess what a possible direction forward is. And if you try to do this all on your own, you're going to take, 20 or 30 years to figure it out. And none of us want to do that. If we want to be in an environment today where we want to accelerate the things that we're doing, we need to leverage the knowledge of people around us and the people of vendors that are around us and the knowledge of people that have done this before. So we want to make this offer to you that you can reach out to us and we'll help you to begin on your first step, or maybe your second or third or 10th step in this journey, and to be able to help you to figure out how to move forward. Thanos, Aerosoft has done some really pretty amazing things, and you've helped a lot of customers. And I think that you have a system which is amazing. And there really are very few other systems like this in the marketplace. And I want to congratulate you for the work that you've done, over how many years now? When's the first time you touched SGML data?
Before I set up Aerosoft, it would be about 1995 or so.
Wow, Thanos, you have like 35 years worth of experience, doing this. And that's just really amazing. All right. That's just fantastic. And so, we need to leverage knowledge of people in the industry and what they're doing in these areas. And I encourage you to reach out to us and let us help you, figure out how to, take your journey in digital transformation. Hey, listen, I want to wrap this up. Oh, well, listen, I wanted to add one more thing to this because Thanos mentioned that that people have this challenge, this difficulty, this journey they're on, where they're taking, PDF and they're trying to, convert it into intelligent data, and then they're printing it and they're signing off on it and they're scanning it and they're putting it back into electronic systems again. And it's really not really an optimized, kind of an environment. And so the bottom line really is that if you want to change that environment, if you want to find your hybrid path to be able to move forward, really, this is the first step, doing an analysis of what it is that you want to do in the future and how you look at your current IT systems and how you can add to them or change them or modify or replace them is really an important part of the process and of the step moving forward. So for those of you that are interested in doing that, we really want to be here to help you to do that. Thanos, it's great that you're able to provide this kind of input into the industry. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Very good. Hey, listen, this presentation, we are actually live watching this presentation with you, and you can add comments now into the comment box for the Q&A session at the end of this presentation. If you have questions, just put them into the comment box, and Thanos and I are here live, and we will be answering your questions. Thanks for watching this presentation, and we look forward to being able to engage with you in our most passionate subject, which is content management and digital transformation. Thanks, Thanos.
Thank you, Mark.